Hey everyone. Well, welcome to the UFO Hub live stream. Today is open lines where I hope to talk to some of you and listen to some of your supernatural stories, whether it's UFO, ghost, cryptid related. And that happens over Telegram. In the link below or in the description below, you'll find a link to the UFO Hub voice chat that's going on right now. You have to install Telegram on your phone or the computer, join the group that's open or the chat that's open right now, and you would be able to chat with me directly. If you are in the chat and just chatting, or you might have a question, any question that's directed towards me, please make sure to include the 3 asterisks before your question, so then that way it pops out at me and I know it's meant for me instead of it just being the regular chatter in the chat room. So I usually, just because I never know if there's going to be somebody there to share the story or what else, I would like to start out with the topic. And of course, as you saw today, it's angels, demons, and aliens. And so I would like to share my perspective about it because over the years, there's basically like this subject has been something that I was avoiding very much, and not because there's something fearful to to avoid or not talk about it. It's just that fear for most people it comes very easy to them. It's very difficult once it takes hold. It's difficult to kind of let it go, and telling them when they're in that fearful state to let go is kind of like asking water not to be wet. It's almost impossible. So anyway, while I'm prefacing with the message that I have, you are more than welcome to download Telegram or join the chat room. And then when the time comes and I basically, switch over to that segment, then hopefully I'll hear from you. If not, I'll just finish off with whatever I would have to say about this subject, and maybe you find it useful, maybe not. So, as I was saying, from the very beginning, when I first opened up this channel, there were always comments about Jesus is Lord, aliens are demons, and things like that, from people that feel that way, that's what they believe, and so that never bothered me, because all of the decades of experience that I've had. I didn't just read about stuff. I experienced it. It affected every fiber of my being. So there was no misunderstanding what I was going through. And if there was, then I was seeking those answers on my own and kept at it for however long it took for me to get those answers. And so generally, and this is just my opinion when it comes to, let's say, believing something based on what you read. When you're, forgive me if this is obviously common sense to some of you, maybe it might not be to others, but when you're reading a book, and it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's the Bible or a structural manual on about something or how to build it or whatever, you are taking in information because you are seeking an answer, and something that you're reading sounds good to you. And so, of course, the first thing that comes around, you would take that in and say, you know what, I'll hold on to this until maybe something better comes around. And so most people do that. And the challenge when it comes to that is that you may read some piece of information that's like, wow, this is great now. But then weeks, months, years from now, you might read something else that then replaces that in a way, or maybe gets joined with what you already know. And so the challenging part when it comes to obtaining information in that way is that it's great for entertainment, but it's difficult when it comes to truly knowing something, because at the end of the day, let's say if it is an instruction manual how to build something, reading about how to build it and actually building it, it's the building part that'll give you the wisdom, they'll give you that understanding, give you that knowledge. And so and then, of course, when someone then has something to say about building or whatever, and let's say you've been doing that for several decades, then, a piece of text in a book is not going to trump your own experiences, your own years of trials and errors that you basically went through and learned from, learned what you needed to learn. Let's say in that case would be, construction or building something. So in that same sense, when we're talking about aliens and when we're talking about demons and things like that, religion has been rooted in society and humanity for a very long time. Now, one thing that becomes very clear when you are on these different levels is that it's a man-made construct, and it's not necessarily that it's that's all false. It's just a lot of the information that sounds good, it's kind of there, like almost like sugar that makes it easy to just swallow the pill a lot easier, even though what might follow up after is not exactly right. What I'm trying to say is, like, you can't talk about love and being good, and kind, but if you're not, you're going to get killed and punished and you will go to hell forever. Those are, you find it very quickly that those are human constructs. And so what I wanted to then go into is to try to share with you some of my experiences throughout all the years that I was going through, where if I wasn't diligent enough, if I didn't push enough as hard as I did, I would have maybe misunderstood some of these experiences as demonic and being fearful about it, or or maybe just being shying away from the subject altogether. Excuse me for a second. So for example, in the very beginning, and some of you, I'm sorry I can't go back and retell the story all the time, but I'll just have to get right to it and start in the middle. When I still lived in Robertsville, Missouri, and it was pretty much in a house in the woods and all by myself. And so for this particularly, I've had many experiences prior to moving there, which is from 2010 to 2015, but it made things more intense during that time because it was just me and I could just experience whatever I needed to experience. So for example, after several years of meditation, by this point, I had my near-death experience, and also several of the psychedelic trips. What happens because of these different experiences, your mind changes in ways to where obviously you didn't think before, because we're very linear about stuff. We just go about our day doing what we want to do, and very, very seldom do we have time to just sit down and ponder about something else. At least I find in my experience, most people don't. And so what happened, so for example, to give you in one instance, this was several years into this, and I've had some experiences, read some books about different stuff about aliens at that time and whatnot. But so I'm laying in bed and I found myself waking up and I can't move. And so generally that's just paralysis. Most people know, it's a known thing. It's not anything out of the ordinary. But what accompanied it at that time, and what's really difficult to describe, so forgive me for the silliness, but I'm basically frozen. I can't move. I just hear this, just very, I guess, for lack of a better word, demonic voices, just basically just all around me. And my first initial reaction, and again, this was in the very early stages where it's just been a few years since I given up religion, but I immediately felt religion come back. And initially, when I was first born, and my parents, they're Muslims, so that was the religion that I kind of grew up with. So I let that go, but I still couldn't help. In that instance, it came back, and I immediately wanted to say a prayer, and I was in fear and wanted help and all these other things. And I remember stopping myself in that instant. And I had just maybe spoken 3-4 words of this prayer, and I stopped. And I said, well, I can't say, okay, I'm on this new journey, but yet I'm reverting right back to where I came from. And so what happened then after, just, I don't know, it seems like forever, but all that stopped. I gained control of my body, and I was able to sit up, and basically was, just sitting there in the middle of the night, just scared, wondering what in the world that was. And so from that particular instant, as I kept searching, kept meditating, and especially then later on my near-death experience, what it explained to me was that these different vibrations, if we're kind of stuck in this between level, you can almost call it, or you can almost say, like, if you imagine being underwater, trying to listen to somebody speak, it would be jarbled, and you couldn't exactly make out what it is. And so, of course, it's not clear, and so that's what happened in that particular instance. What exactly was wanting to be conveyed to me, I don't know. But the point was, because I never stopped looking, I never stopped searching, that, I found the answer for that, instead of me just, years later holding on to that, saying, oh God, this was this was scary. And yeah, I believe in demons, and they were all demons, when you're on this different level, everything is open to you, and you see it and you understand it. And so there's nothing that can happen without your involvement. So that's not to say that same way that on this planet we have some people that are bad, that, there are murderers, rapists, whatever, they steal, they are in their own path, at their own stage, whatever that path eventually leads to. They're at this stage where they're there. I'm pretty sure most of us, and this is again a very controversial subject, if you learn how to look back on some of your other lifetimes, you were exactly at that very same stage, but eventually you get out of it, you learn what you need to learn from it, and then you move on, and so there's all these, all these things. For example, like, when the longer you are into just understanding consciousness and understanding yourself, and you dabble into understanding, oh, there's other consciousnesses, aka aliens, and other beings that sometimes don't have a planet, they just exist, they will, when you open yourself up to that field, they will make themselves known to you. And so how you react to it is up to you. So, for example, I was one of the instance, I was remodeling, in the process of remodeling my house, and the living room was done, but I only had put white primer paint on all the walls. So it's just, everything is white and it's very clear to see. And so very clearly on to the left of my, on my left side, I could see a ball of just pure black, just slowly moving against that wall. And the second I turned my head to it, it just quickly went around that corner. So I got up, I turned on the lights, of course, like every other human would, and I would look to see if I might still see some traces of it. And of course, there was nothing there. There would be instances to where I was, specifically in one of my rooms, and I'm sitting there, and all the doors are open because it's just me living there. So I would see a shape that's basically has a large head, a small body, and it's a shadow basically on the floor, coming from one of the rooms that it's literally just my bedroom. And at that time I had 5-inch pattern, 1-inch steel bars that were bolted all around the window. And so I saw it there, and I looked at it, and it just slowly went back into the room. Within a split second, I was in that room, and it was gone, And so, and there was no way out, at least humanly. At this point, I already knew what was up. I was not, oh, what could this be? I was not confused about it. I was just trying to see, like, okay, what was the point of that? And so there would also be, I guess, there would be poltergeist type activity, Now poltergeist we associate with something fearful, with something to be afraid and so on. But what I specifically mean is because my wife has been this has been pretty much a part of her life, all her life as well. We experience weird things around the house all the time. The difference is both of us knowing what it is. It doesn't faze us. We simply just having an experience. We witness it, and then we move on. If there is something more for us to know about this, then we'll inquire and see. But otherwise, it's just like, okay, that was different, and then we move on. So one particular instance, I woke up at night and I had a dream, and it was more like, it was a dream. It wasn't an out of body experience, but I was dreaming something about an interaction, alien related, ships and all kinds of stuff happening. So, I was like, all right, that's no different than any other time. So I got up, I went to the bathroom. I came out, and it was 3 a.m. and my wife and the kids were sleeping there, and the light was on. And so it's not that it's just the main light was on, it was, we have this lamp that basically is over the beds, and you have to, basically pull all the way up to turn it on. You can't bump it to where it'll flip on or something like that. It would have to be, a conscious decision to just, have that little lever pulled all the way up to turn on the lights. And so I, just being not expecting anything else, I walked out, saw the lights. I was like, babe, why'd you turn the light on? I was like, babe, I was trying to call her, and then I realized she was sleeping, but by me inquiring about it, she woke up. She's like, what? I said, why'd you turn the light on? I was like, I didn't. And the lights were right on. She's like, well, what happened? I was like, I don't know. Let's just go to bed. So people that generally, that basically are more religious minded and want to, I guess, serve and want to, I guess, try to acquire knowledge or whatever it is that they're trying to gain from religion, they would basically look at that and then try to translate that based on what the books say, whether it's the Quran or the Bible or whatever religion they happen to belong to. And so, that's not to say that, religion is wrong or that, you should just not, read it or listen to it. All I'm trying to say is that we are all part of this one and the same thing. So you seeking and believing in Christ and reading the Bible and praying is no different than me seeking, meditating, and consciously making decisions in my life and which way to go and what to do. It's absolutely no different. In essence, you could almost say it would be that the God, the universe, whatever you want to call it, it would not care what we call it or how we describe it, because no matter what we do, we will always be within it. We cannot be part of it or outside of it. And so any kind of silly arguments or conversations we might have, it would still be happening within this one God consciousness. And so the only difference is that I wanted to see for existence for what it is, without any kind of filtration mechanism or a filter to have to look through all the time. I just wanted to see it for what it is, without any other obstructions, without having something in the back of my mind saying, oh, you can't because this religion forbids it, or you're not supposed to do this. Because it's, if you understand, like one thing that especially during my near-death experience, what's really interesting is that the God or the universe or whatever you want to call it is annoyingly impartial about life, about existence. And so, because I expected that there would be judgment, I expected that there would be finally some payback, because I had to endure all this other stuff, and surely, all the things that were done to me will now be paid back to these people, tenfold and yada, yada, yada. But it actually isn't like that at all. What it is that all these people play a role in you, for you in your life, and you play a role to them. What that is, you will discover that later. But the whole point here is that you created that scenario. And so, you had something that you wanted to get out of that experience. What that exactly is for to you to find out. Sometimes you'll find out before you die. Sometimes you'll find out after your death, because it has to play out in this specific way. But God, or the universe, the way it is, it has to remain impartial. It has to remain neutral in order for everything that can happen and all that it exists within it in this infinite way. It has to remain impartial. If it starts choosing, you're going to narrow down and basically kind of get rid of infinity, because we, as the small parts of God, we have the choice, and religious people call it free will. I call it a choice. Other people call it whatever, their path, or whatever you want to call it. The whole point is that we get to walk through this life and say, well, I want to think about stuff this way, and I want these certain things, and I want to do things this way, and this is what feels right. But we're narrowing it down bit by bit by bit, not realizing that all these choices that now we have available for us to choose from are only there because of the infinity of God, because it allowed everything and anything to happen and occur and constantly occur, so that you will never end up, basically at a wall to where you go, oh, well, I've chosen everything that I could ever choose, and there's nothing else to choose from anymore, And so that's kind of the relationship that I would hope you would start understanding between you and all of existence, and when it comes to, especially when we're talking about demons or spirits or things that could attach themselves to you and things like that, you quickly realize that everything that already exists in this universe already exists. So there's no more space for anything else. So you, the way you are, have already taken up all the space that is there. Other things that will ever exist, they have taken up their space. And so for something to just take over you out of your own control, on this world, you can create it. Certainly you can create it, but ultimately it's not anything that you need to be, that need to be fearing or thinking that this is going to be forever. Because, life in general, already has its own difficulties that you have to try to figure out. Why have you chosen what you've chosen? Why make yourself, even more afraid about something that, it's not part of you? Like, oh no, someone else is going to attach themselves to me because I didn't believe in God, or I broke some rules or some laws. It's, try to differentiate between what's being taught to you, and what you, through your life experiences, have learned. When I was still lived in St. Louis, a very good friend of mine, I'm pretty sure he wouldn't mind me telling his name, saying his name. His name is Ross, and we would often, maybe twice a week, have lunch. And so we would go to these different places, and he was a very, very religious person, but he, and this is just my opinion, and all my life that I lived, he was the first person that is truly deeply religious, but for his own reasons. And he and I were discussing so many, subjects, and him talking to me about them from his understanding of religious ways, and me telling him from my, I guess, spiritual understanding about certain concepts, to where we were just going back and forth, and there was just no judgment, because we both were seeking something, we were searching for something, and we were simply sharing information with each other, without having to gain a victory of one over another. And he would read the Bible, no pun intended, religiously, and he would go to church, and he would pray on things a lot. He would just, he's like, oh, I was praying the other day and I was thinking about this, and so I realized and recognized you know, the 25 years ago me would have, looked at that and would have, turned it some kind of into judgment of like, and just would have scoffed at it. But, seeing that he is using the Bible for his own advancement, to learn whatever his heart is searching, and there's absolutely nothing, wrong with that, and a lot of times if, he would get, into a pickle or a conundrum. For example, we were often talking about, in the religious sense, you have the good and evil, or good or bad. Spiritual sense, you have the positive and negative. And we were talking about simply, well, wouldn't it be just easier if just everything is just positive, everything is just good, you have nothing, negativity is just out of the picture, and you can just happily live your life. And so we were just discussing and talking about certain things, about regarding that. And I told him, well, at that thought that came to me at that time, I told him negativity, just looking, something negative or something bad, it's a necessity of the other coin. And so the example I gave him at that time was, let's say somebody's for whatever reason on the train tracks and the train is coming. It's like, in a way, you have to push them out of the way to get them out. Well, that push, the very act of that is a negative, because I'm pushing you, I might be hurting you in the process. Now, of course, the outcome, is for the better. But the point is, that negativity was necessary at that time. So we were just kind of looking at negativity or the bad in the very nuanced thing of it. Anyway, so those are the kind of conversations he and I were having. And so, it was just, quite, very, quite pleasant to be able to talk to somebody and have them hear or have them say words one way and me saying words the other way, and for both of us using it for the benefit for both our growth, And so I can only hope that most of you can find that, even if you're religious, it doesn't matter. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. All I'm saying is that religion and UFOs, demons, and all these other things, it's, all the things can be explained if you dig deep enough. Everything, if you understand to stay open. Because if you constantly just, stay in that fear and just want to run away from it as far as you possibly can, then you will not get anything different from it, than what you think in your head. There will new understanding, a new way of looking at it will not come to you, because you have then fully and utterly blocked yourself out of that. And then of course there's no benefit to it, no benefit to you as a soul. I mean, unless you eventually find out that was what you were seeking, that was exactly why you came here to live your life, is to have a fearful life. But that's something else you have to, sort out. So anyway, that's basically the points that I wanted to make. I hope I wasn't rambling on and on too much. So let me see if some of you are in Telegram, or if there's somebody who wants to talk, or to see what's going on in chat. Excuse me, I had to cough. Okay. Man, all my stuff is... Oh, there they are. There's a new setting change. Silky B, how are you? Labels, how you doing? Good to see you again. And Guy Merritt, Ann Potter, Cindy, Renee, welcome all of you. Edward. All right, let me see. So there's just one listener, and that's also too, Telegram, you can just use it to listen, voice only. But yeah, there's nobody in Telegram that wanted to talk. So Silky B is asking a question. Says reptilians are thought to be aggressive or malevolent. Any other alien races, though, to be on the wrong side of love? Well, So I might have maybe mentioned this or might have talked about this, but let me give you an example um, about your oversoul or your higher self. So, and I promise this is in relation to reptilians, and I'll get to the story quickly. I just have to tell you this part. There's the character that you are. So I'm Adnan. I'm a character. Silky B, you're a character. The character we are playing has a very limited understanding. It's not supposed to know everything. The higher version of you, your oversoul, is the part that basically is kind of dipped a finger into this reality to have this experience, and it will gain from it what it needs to gain, but it will ultimately understand the full picture. Some of these communications that are happening are actually happening between your oversoul and whatever other beings you happen to be in presence. And so I've learned that several times to where I found myself conversating or having a conversation with somebody else, but Adnan, was not allowed to be privy to it. My mouth was moving, everything was happening, but I couldn't quite understand. Like it was almost like I was in my own car, but I was just sitting in the passenger side. And then on a few rare occasions, I was able to kind of get in the driver seat, realize, oh, I am back, I can't control this, and I would ask some stupid question. Well, in reference to the reptilians, so this was a out of body experience. So I had just laid down, and I was feeling all these different tingles, all over my body, and so I was like, it seems like I'm not going to be going to sleep tonight. It's just, I basically let them take over, and then next thing I know, whatever image comes next or whatever film comes next is whatever I need to be doing or interacting with whatever. Well, anyway, as I lay there, I immediately then saw there was right in front of my face a reptilian face, and I just, pardon my French, was freaked the fuck out. And so I was trying to back up, and I was trying to grab my breath or gas for my breath, because I was immediately afraid. It's like having a snake in front of your face. It was very like the dragon face, but everything was more smushed, instead of protruding out. And so as I saw it, and I was backing up, I could sense and see that it just went like this. And then it turned around, it walked towards an egg-shaped thing, whatever, but it was weird to me. I was like, what's he gonna do in that? Because it looked like an egg, but it had 3 fins, almost like a egg rocket. And so it kind of set back into the egg, and it closed down to where you couldn't see the door anymore. It was seamless, and it just took off with just no noise, nothing, just took off. And as it was flying up to wherever I was following it, I saw there was a much bigger egg, which I guess you can call it a mothership or whatever, and it was just awesome. I mean, I was in awe looking at it. It had all kinds of colors. It was orangish brown. And so as I was looking at it and just admiring it, it sent the ship, and it was clear to me what it was, because when it's a being versus a ship, or one of us, we would call it AI, but it's the consciousness of the ship, sent me a message. It's just kind of saying hello. And I was so afraid that I got out of it, and I got out of bed, and I was happy to just be back and not be in that presence. The way it felt, it would be how an ant would look at us getting close to him. To see something that big and have consciousness and be aware was scary, So of course, all those, because these things were just in my face, and were shown to me. I had no other choice but just react on this, react to that, and so on. So later on, when I calmed my butt down, and I was just trying to recall what was happening and all that, I remembered that the way he reacted initially was, it's like the other version of me was talking to them about whatever. And then that was the time when I got a chance to move over from passenger side to driver's side to, basically have my own experiences on this. And of course, the first thing I did is freak out. But the point was, it wasn't something, just because it looked different. And even now, if I were to see it, I'm not ashamed to say it, I would be afraid. The whole point is there was nothing evil about it. And this is something that you're going to have to, I guess, just, if and when you might ever have a chance to have this experience, is that there was absolutely nothing evil about it. It was my own interpretation of what I thought I saw and how I thought I needed to react. And so, excuse me 1 second. Sorry about that. And so my mind changed, about how I viewed them. Now, something that's very interesting that happened after that, I was very afraid of snakes, because living in the city most of my life, and only going camping occasionally, and doing that often, but still not often enough to become used to being around snakes. The property that I had, it had a lot of the black snakes. Basically, they eat rats most of the time. Then there were copperheads. I got bit by one, stepped on one during the night while I was going from the house to the car. And there's just not much they can do. Just let it do its thing and be done with it. Basically, the hospitals stopped admitting people about it. They would just let them naturally get over it. And so, anyway, what happened after that experience is that I became, like, my fear about snakes and about reptiles reduced itself by maybe 20-fold. How I used to be and how I am now. Because before, if it was 30 feet, 40 feet, the further away from me, the better. What happened then, I could, now I can just step next to it, of course, still being careful of it not biting me, because it might think I'm trying to harm it. But, be close to it and, kneel down and observe it and all this other stuff. And so, without understanding fully what that conversation was about, I at least, then something happened to where now I'm okay with, in my waking daily life, to be around reptiles and not freak out in the same way. So something got dulled, something got lowered, and so I would look at that, overwhelmingly as a very positive thing, instead of, I don't know, maybe at some other point, like with many things that I have on my bucket list to find out what in the world was all this about, maybe it will eventually, be explained to me what that interaction was about. But the whole point is, it doesn't matter. It helped me here in this life. So anyway, so when people talk about, reptiles, they are, a lot of people get scared when they say, "Oh no, there's reptilians that eat people." I don't doubt that. And I'm not, but I still, don't misunderstand me, I don't see it as a negative thing, because in the same sense that we eat cows and eat these different animals, we're not evil. We're not evil. We're not, these people that need to be stopped and, eradicated just because we kill other animals to eat. So do they. And if you look in this universal structure of things, would not be whatsoever surprising if you stop and think that there wouldn't be other things that would then look at us as food. The difference is that it was a long time ago. I heard that initially there was a plan, or initially a certain path that most of us were on, that they would be more prevalent in our lives, and it would have been a bigger deal for us to deal with. Meaning more like having to defend ourselves and then having an experience living a life out in that way. But it got changed to where that's not the case anymore. Now they're still around to where they would still, eat a human here and there. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case. But again, when it comes to fear, I can't explain it, or I can't emphasize it enough to just do not be afraid. Just, don't let that fear take over your life, because it's such a small temporary thing, to where, why waste your most of your life? Why waste it just, fearing, hoping, to trying to avoid fear, when you can just concentrate on just keep on living your life. And if something happens to a point to where your life is extinguished, then let it be, because I promise you there is a life after, and I hope you don't, leave the planet before you're supposed to. But all, just from my personal experience, and if my opinion, has any weight in your consciousness, I would just really hope that you don't stay in that fearful state, because alike attracts alike. So if you are constantly fearful, then you will be constantly attracting things that are worth fearing. And so you have to just understand that you have to make that conscious decision, that switch, to where you choose to live your life instead of constantly looking behind your back. And so then that way, that positive view, that the positive outlook you, is then going to then attract all the things that mesh with you, and they will be coming your way a lot easier. And then the fear would be less and less and less, and not be that prevalent and that controlling in your life. So in a way, it's I don't know if this is a good expression, that it's catch 22. It's the for most people, the more they try to get out of the fear, the more into fear they get, and other than just waiting to see that switch in you flip on its own, or whenever that right timing is for it to flip over and for you to finally start going down that path, when that happens for each and every one of you, I don't know, but you can certainly take the steps today, right now, if you are one of those people that is in constant fear. Okay, I'm sorry, I've been rambling again. So let's see what else we got. I think this is just everyone is chatting with each other. I'm trying to see if there's another question, or... All right, we have somebody who raised their hands. Let me switch over. Hi, Yo-Yo, you are unmuted. Unmute yourself on your end, and you should be able to speak to me.
Hello. Yeah, this is before the show, or?
No, we've been already close to an hour into it. You can speak to me. You don't have to wait for the pre-show. You missed it. Pre-show is from 6:30 to 7.
Okay. Yeah, I just I heard you talking about reptilians, and well, I mean, fear is something that we do need to deal with in this part of reality, which I don't know. I don't know if that like coincides with what you were saying, but I had some weird thing where like I actually visited some type of reptilians, and like I don't know if it was real. It could have been a dream, could have been not. Who knows? But
Does it matter?
like everybody has their part, and then you're just ready for what you're ready for. And if you're ready to face the fear, go for it. That means you're ready. I mean,
Right.
as to my experience, I mean, like we're all going to be scared. We're going, but just face it, and then don't like don't panic. Yeah, but like use your mind to overcome like some like if when you react, sometimes your reactions are supposed to be good, but when you don't really understand what's going on, then your mind should tell you maybe you shouldn't be reacting as quickly. Like you need to understand the situation before you should make a proper reaction. Yeah, if that
Right.
helps anybody.
Right. No, I get it. Well, I think this might go along with what you just said. So like many years ago, I'm pretty sure, just having talked to you before, you might be in the same boat. Pretty long time ago, before all the conspiracy theories were proven true, or proven right in the past 3 years. Um, how many times were there always talks about the one world order, and how many times were talks about going cashless, and how many talks were all these other things that made people so afraid, and so they were constantly just fearing about this and that. And then when this stuff happened, those very same people that were afraid 20 years ago are still afraid going through it. And it's like, so you knew about something, but you still haven't done anything, and all you were left with is living in fear for the past 20 years. you know
Well, that shows that
because
they're fighting. They're not allowing what's going to happen to happen. That's like, well, how I see it is like they fear it. They've seen it, but they're not. They're actually the ones fighting the change. And if something's gonna, like, if a wave is gonna hit you, it's gonna hit you. You can't stop the
right,
wave. So the
right,
best thing you could do is, like, tuck and roll or whatever, to the best of your ability. Like,
right,
don't
right,
really fight. Just be aware of it and at least protect your own people, like, to your ability. But
right,
I mean, something's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. Like, fighting it, wishing it's not gonna happen is not gonna solve anything in reality.
right. Well, because I mean, unless you know that there's something specifically that you like, yes, this is what I can do, and you see this event coming, then yeah, if you have pre-planned to do something, then go ahead and do it. It's part of that experience. Like, okay, make a change, but to not know what to do, but then still choose fear over just being happy and being in this happiness and love. It's like it makes no sense. Because why would
Yeah,
you just be afraid and keep on being afraid as if that's going to save you somehow? Well, if you know there's going to be a demise for you, and you're not going to do anything about it, then why not at least be happy? choose
yeah. In
choose the
that
other
point in
thing.
time, like, your fear is not helping you. It's not assisting you at all. So in
Right,
that situation, you should let go. But fear, like healthy fear, is like, hey, you should be aware this could happen. Like,
right,
you should listen to that one, but you don't, like, let it run your life. Like,
right,
there's a balance. Yeah, like, I mean, we have fear. We have to deal with fear. That's a real thing. But, like, don't live it under fear. Like,
right. No, no,
yeah,
I know
but
exactly what you mean. I agree with that, Yo-Yo.
it's a scary thing, but you got to face it. And at one point in time, you just have to not give a shit and just let go. There's nothing you can
Right,
do. But
right,
yeah,
right.
yeah,
Well, it's I mean, it's very refreshing too, to just know, to just let go and not worry about, that you will not have control of the next consequence. There's a peace about that.
yeah, yeah. It's very exhilarating. It is scary as hell, but, like, sometimes that's the best thing to do. But yeah.
Right, right, right. Well, yeah, no, but I was I've already been basically waiting for other questions online or somebody to raise their hand in chat, and you did. So thanks for not making it so lonely today. Not that it is. There's plenty of people in the chat, but thanks for joining to talk to me.
Yeah, it's always good to help the conversation keep going. All
Well,
right. Nice to be
listen,
on.
yeah, I mean, the point is, it's like I'm not an expert on anything. I never claimed to be an expert on anything. All I have is my experiences that gave me, a set of tools, which helped me live my life, and so I love to hear from other people, because there's still possible, after all I've been through and done, there's other things that people could mention, and I go, oh wow, I never thought to look at this experience in this way. It's possible.
Yeah.
But so I would always encourage people to just share their stories and talk, because you're part of the God consciousness.
Hmm. Yeah, you can learn something from anybody
Right,
if you listen
right,
close enough. Yeah.
right, right. Yeah, if you're willing to take it in, and take it in as a meaningful lesson. There's some people that I know, specifically my oldest son. It's like you can talk your head off. It's like it just seems like things go into one ear and out the other. But I guess that's a teenager for you.
Hmm. Well, yeah. Well, they got to be ready themselves. If they're not ready to hear it, then maybe they shouldn't hear it. I don't know. I'm just,
Right.
just
Yeah,
throwing.
that's true too. I just hope that when he's ready, I'm not going to be, 80, 90 years old, shaking trying to give him advice then when he's ready to listen.
Well, maybe they just pick it up too and just have it floating around. Who knows? I mean, I don't know, but
Right.
but don't be too hard on, kids got a lot to deal with now. Like when I was a kid, you don't have to deal with mass or people telling you this, you're going to die from a cold. And like, we kind of live free. We don't, they're like, just come home in one piece. They don't really care. Like,
Right.
you know what I mean? Kids now are under so much stress. Like, yeah, I don't think I would want to experience that kind of stress as a child. Yeah.
Well, I don't know that anyone who's been, who's been a kid that they ever really want to go back. Maybe to the beautiful memories, but not the,
Right.
not all the things that involves being a child.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not fun. I mean, you have your health. I mean, most people have their health when they're younger, but
Right.
I'm all beat up right now. And like when I was 20, I could totally kick my own ass at this age point in time, but like I'm just more wiser, I mean, I had a certain, intelligence more than the average bear at that age, but now it's just like, geez, man, like if I knew all the shit now and I had to go back there, I would have done it totally different. But that's just looking back. You look back, you always have a different that is the different perspective, but
Right.
like time kind of, it'll show you a new perspective, which is a good thing.
Yep. It's always that. If I knew then what I know now.
Yeah. Yeah. I was a schmuck, but we all were, dude,
Yeah. Well, you know what? That's a very humbling
that's not your
experience. That's a humbling experience for somebody to realize that. Most people are not willing to go that deep into looking into themselves to realize, like, wait a minute, maybe I was a schmuck, or to some cases, an asshole or a jerk or whatever.
Yeah.
Because it's this self-criticism. They always, I don't know, very few people go down that route. Because they don't want to see flaws. All they want to know is that they're perfect in every way.
Well, if you have the mindset is this actually assisting me in some way? Like if you're gaining something from it, then even if it's hard, then you can see that it's worth doing.
Yeah.
But if you can't see it's helping you, then like just leave it alone. But
right. Well, Yo-Yo, can I ask you a quick question?
Nothing is helping you. Like if you don't believe in God and nothing, everything's just an accident. I mean, I don't believe that per se, but I think that does not serve me at all. So I'm staying away from that kind of philosophy myself. I mean, the people are free to do what they want, but I mean, if that serves them, then I guess it does somehow, right? Otherwise they wouldn't be doing it. But
right. I'm sorry to change the subject. I actually did want to actually ask you, I don't know if you got to hear what I said prior, or you just recently, just a few moments ago joined, but I was wanting to ask you then about what are your thoughts? Because I shared my thoughts about demons, aliens, and all the connection there, and my outlook on it. What are your thoughts,
right.
if any? I don't mean to put you on the spot.
Yeah, it's okay. No, I love talking about stuff. If you want to have me, my philosophy is all life is just life, and we are all made from one creator. You can believe otherwise, but that's my philosophy. So, I mean, if they're aliens, we call them aliens, just we haven't met them. And in Earth itself, there is the level of water, there's the level of earth, level of air. There are different levels of reality. So, and then who's to say that it would stop just at Earth, at our planet? So it's like you have fish, you have little worms. I mean, they're all there for a reason. Like, I don't understand why that reason is, perhaps, but I'm open into exploring. I mean, I love exploring. I love finding new things. So most people kind of don't. They wouldn't put themselves out on a limb to go just see something new.
Right.
But that's their personality. They're kind of you have different personality types, which is that just to me coincide. Shows that the way we were made, or the way that life is put together, has an intelligence behind it. I mean, if you don't believe in God per se, maybe but there is an intelligence design in the universe.
Right.
And it's
But
like,
but you can see,
I
so
mean, we might not know what it's about now, but there is a reason we're here. And I think other beings are like, we're all just floating around there. And if we meet each other, like it could go bad. We can become friends. We don't have to be friends, but like, we should at least recognize that we have the right to be there and to be in our position.
right. But you
I
don't
mean,
see a
that's a
conflict between believing in aliens and being religious.
um well, I have a different definition of religion than most
Mhm.
people. Most people would say like, oh, you believe in the Bible or the Quran or the Torah, like that kind of thing. But I mean, like there is reality and like it is what it is. Maybe we don't exactly know what it is, but it's there and it's not going to change. And that's what it is. And it's like, that's what I would call God is like reality.
Right.
Like, you might not be able to see it, but it's there. And if you can study it, like, I mean, what was I saying? Like, it's just there and it's not really a belief. It's just your understanding.
Right.
This is all comes down to how you perceive things. Like, your perception can always change. Your knowledge base can change, and then you can have a different view. But what is always there was always there. I mean, what was there in the past is still there now, and it's like that thing ain't going away. And then, you know, I mean, you can say that everything's chaotic, but I don't believe that. Like, I just think we're
Right.
here for a reason. What that reason is, that's debatable, and what you define as God, that's up to you. Your own. Everybody's entitled to their own definition, but what it is right now. I mean, we are all here. That's not a question. There's nothing to believe. You
Right.
know, you don't have to believe in reality. It just is. Like that's my take on it as far as today.
Okay.
Like
All right. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate you sharing your thoughts. I'm
yeah.
glad
Nope.
you caught it on time. So anyway, I'm Central
Ran home.
Time. So next time, 6:30 to 7, if you want to do the pre-show chat, and also for everyone
Yep.
else watching from the live stream officially starts at 7, but between 6:30 and 7, I open up the Telegram voice chat. So anyone that can join, we just chat about whatever. It's not live, just amongst us until it's time to go live. So anyway, Yo-Yo, well, thanks again. You take care, and I hope to catch you next
Thanks
time.
for letting me share. Yes, thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you, Yo-Yo. Appreciate that. All right, let me go back to questions here. The next question I see is labeled 369. Says, Adnan, what is your overall feeling about experiencing aliens? It's very, it was very difficult, and it's very challenging because simply in the sense that it twists your mind and expands your mind. I know it's contradicting terms, but basically it takes you out of what's generally considered to be normal in such a vast and drastic way to where it makes life very difficult to be lived, trying to understand them while still trying to go to a day job and having kids and raising them and all these other things. Because same thing with experiences such as, let's say, just recently, ayahuasca trips have become very, very popular. People go to, go to each other's houses. There's a guide or a shaman, and they cook the brew up however long it takes, and people will be at whatever rooms, and then they take the drink and they journey together. Well, anyway, I guess it's nothing new. This has been happening for decades, but just recently, it's kind of like this city transition, And what's interesting is that some people somehow they go on these trips and they come back and they were like, it was interesting. It was this and that, and whatever, and specifically ayahuasca, it changes their lives, but very few can do it often. Some do it like all the time, and so on, because they just want to constantly have that whatever the next experience is, but it's not as intense. It just makes them either laugh a little bit, or it just they feel funny on it, or they might see some imagery and some things like that, and so they do it often because that's just what they get from it. My experiences with psychedelics, and then generally that led into more of trying to understand aliens more and having that contact. Bottom line, it's not everybody's cup of tea. It's look, as my friend Cherry Wild calls it, I guess she named her book "A Forgotten Promise." And after I had my download, I basically, in a way, that's what I'm doing, is trying to then do my little part about what I know, doing the show, helping people out if I'm helping anybody out, to tell them, hey, you're not crazy. Crazy shit happens. I'm just very open to talk about it and not too afraid about ridicule. And so I'm hoping that that helps them by just me being open, because some people they don't want scrutiny, especially when it comes to the web, because there's so many things that come down your pike when you open yourself up to the internet, and so you just have to be a person, or have enough wisdom and enough grown up to just not let that drive you crazy. Because I know some people who get that early and they're just consumed of trying to fight online and all this other stuff. And very few, if there's some very specific questions that I feel like, wow, I really, would be good for me to maybe talk to them about it or answer it, I do. But most of the time I just leave it be, So anyway, I would not recommend it to everybody, because you have to do a lot of soul searching. You have to then, every time you have an experience, you have to figure out, why did you have that experience? What exactly happened? It's like, did I experience what I think I experienced, or did I, or am I just mistaken? And so to go through that process for every event and to have that drag on for years is very tiring, because sitting at work trying to do what I got to do, and especially if I'm working with computers, and I have to focus if I'm designing something, or if I'm editing video or designing a graphic, and then in the back of my mind, it's like, who was that figure that just showed up the other night, And so I think Whitley Strieber talked about it too. It's very taxing, it's, it's awesome to know and to have learned that there's more out there, but it's just, there are times where I just wish I was blissful and just would go play soccer and hang out with my family, maybe go work out more, and just go see movies, and, and just all these other things that just take me away from all that, and just live a normal, blissful life, unaware that anything else is going on. So anyway, again, sorry for the ramble. I hope that answered your question. Silky B says, can you explain how you came to understand that the grays are us in the future? I believe you mentioned that in the recent past. So the way I knew that is actually, I didn't have any experience on regarding that throughout any of my experiences, because what was told to me initially by Bashar, that's channeled by Daryl Enka, I basically took his advice to, okay, I can't do it. He said, I can't prove anything to you, but I promise you can prove it to yourself. And so I took him up on that offer a long time ago, and I'm not going to retell the story, but the point here is that when I followed all those steps and I found all my answers and understood that he guided me the way I needed to guide me, I didn't need to revisit certain events. Now, my experiences with the grays were very limited, but it didn't explain anything about who they are, where they came from. I just took it from him and at his word, because his words and his guidance took me where I am here, and I could see and understand and trust what he's saying. So I didn't necessarily have an experience of my own where a gray told me where they're from and all of that. But he was the one that had mentioned it over all these other years and several other videos that it's basically us from the future. And so it came from him. And so I'm basically just regurgitating that story, or I have in the past. Okay. I'm sorry, I keep forgetting. For those that are listening on podcasts, I apologize for the long silences. I'm just going through and scrolling through to see if there is anyone that might have a question. Otherwise, I'm not quite sure what else I could cover, unless you care to hear another explanation about a certain thing from my point of view. All right. I don't see any more other questions. For those that if you do have a question, please make sure you put 3 asterisks before your question. That's when I know it's meant for me. All right. Well, I think this is it. Thank you all very much for joining me today. In the future, I hope some of you actually can join me on Telegram and share some of your stories, whatever they may be. But I'll just keep that up and do that every Wednesday. If I have an interview, I'll replace it with an interview instead. It's been actually a very busy week because there's about 3 weeks left before the Ozark Mountain UFO conference. And so a lot of the equipment that's being used to record it and live streaming and all that is in my possession because it's belongs to UFO Hub, and I'm in partnership with Ozark Mountain Publishing. So I was making sure that everything's working just right and fix up everything before we have to go live in April. But anyway, so sorry, there's one more question here, but let me complete this thought. So I'll take JC Wilder 86. I'll take your question here just in a bit. So anyway, I didn't schedule an interview. There are several interviews that are just waiting to be happening. So I felt like I needed to get this table ready, and it's basically an AV table that I built a long time ago. So, but yeah, if there's a winner that won the 2 tickets, I'm going to release a video announcing them, and I'll contact them. And I hope they answer me, because sometimes people don't answer, and then I have to pick somebody new. But the Ozark Mountain UFO Conference is happening in April in Eureka Springs, Arkansas. So it's still not too late for those of you who might be interested to come on down and just be a participant. The UFO conference in the Ozarks was one of my first one, and it was quite literally a life changer. And so I've been going to it ever since, and now I'm part of organizing it. So it definitely plays a huge role in my life. But and you get to meet me there, and many of the other speakers that are going to be there. Maybe other conferences do the same thing, but what I particularly like about the Ozark conference is that the speakers are encouraged to be in the halls and be at the main places where people are, so people can go and talk to them and interact with them. And so you can ask them questions, whatever questions you might have, and maybe get the answers you were looking for. So anyway, enough of that. That explains why I'm doing open lines today and instead of an interview, but it will be a mix. Sometimes open lines, sometimes interview. So just stay tuned to see what's coming up next. So JC Wilder 86 said, who flies the big triangles? The triangle shape, and it's just, this is not from my personal experience, just from the other interactions with, especially people that, because you can't have every single experience that's ever to be had, otherwise then you'd be God. the whole omnipresent God. We're just these small portions of it, so there's only certain amount of knowledge we have. But from what I've been basically reading about, being told about, and discussing, is that belongs to the Grays, or the Grays are using that mostly, and some of the hybrids that have been created since then. And according to Bashar, there are 5 hybrid races that came about from this hybridization program between the Greys and the humans. And so some fly the triangular ships, especially, I think it was, I don't know if it was more like almost like a boomerang shape, or if it was triangular. There was in 1997 in Phoenix that basically hovered over the city and flew all over the state. Anyway, and so that was supposed to have been one of the hybrid races, kind of slowly but very blatantly and obviously making their presence known. And so something like that seems like would be continuing in the future, because we're getting closer and closer to 2025. And according to Bashar, based on the energies and the reading of the energy that he has, or his collective race of Sasani, they call themselves, he was saying between 2025 and 2035 would be a very, very high probability of contact. And just more and more ships appearing, and just more and more talk about it until the eventual contact. What exactly happens from that, we'll find out. But like with everything else, energy can change. Certain things could happen. I liken it to the metaphor of, if you play or do bowling, you could throw the ball, and if it goes down straight and you looking at it, there's a very good probability that it will reach the end and knock down the pins. But while it's in that process, someone else can alter the course, slap the ball out, something else falls, a ceiling falling through, to prevent the eventual, becoming of whatever the energy was heading to. And so anyway, keep those in mind, that they're not predictions, but that they are readings of the energy in the now. And if nothing changes and everything stays the same, then that energy will then come to fruition, that we then call a prediction that had come true. But that's our terms. It's not the terms that they use, because prediction has a certain level of expectations and certain level of certainty that it must happen, but this is just the best guesstimates that they have. Well, it looks like there's going to be a lot more questions coming through. Someone in Burnaby asks, is there a mothership in the sun sending out probes to Earth? I couldn't tell you. I'm sorry, I don't have that information. There have been some very fascinating videos and pictures taken of very strange objects around the sun, that the sheer size of them would imply that they're 100 times bigger than the Earth. Just having some kind of interaction with the sun, but other than seeing what slipped through NASA's cracks, I couldn't tell you. All right. Well, so again, thank you all very much for joining me today. Next week, Wednesday, I'll either have another open line, but most likely we'll have an interview. Please stay tuned. Subscribe to this channel. Also, Telegram, Rumble, and Twitch are my main alternative forms that I'm hoping to build up. Rumble will have all the copies of what I have on YouTube in case YouTube takes me down someday. Then, because I wouldn't be able to stream, I'll be, of course, using Twitch to stream, so I can have more of a live interaction with all of you like this. And Telegram is more of my own personal messaging. If there's something I need to, put out, and sometimes some people post of their own in there, but it's like my way, or basically it would be our main way between all of you and me to stay in touch in case YouTube kicks me off this platform eventually. And I've talked about that a while back, because I have a few strikes and warnings that next one I'll be I'll be gone for 7 days, and if it whatever I'm saying that they're not happy with, it will continue 30, and then eventually be kicked off. Not 30, maybe more, and then eventually be kicked off the platform. So anyway, well, thank you all. I appreciate you all for being here. Again, subscribe to the other channels that I have. I'm really going to use them heavily and rely on them heavily. And all the links, of course, are in the description below. So again, thank you all. You have a good evening, good day, wherever you may be. And I'll catch you next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.